Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Military Transition Wellness, the podcast dedicated exclusively to those transitioning from military service. Today we are talking about women veterans and what it means from a wellness perspective as you embark on a whole new journey outside military service. To help us do that today, we have Melissa A. Washington, who's the CEO and founder of the Women's Veterans Alliance. Melissa, welcome to the podcast today. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to be informed as new episodes become available. If you enjoyed today's episode or any of our episodes, please rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform. As always, check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some resources as you begin your health journey.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I look forward to chatting with you today.
We are so happy to have you. Will you take a moment to introduce yourself and what brought you to this point in your life? Why the Women's Veterans Alliance?
Absolutely. I'm a Navy veteran, and I've also been married to a Marine for almost 28 years now. And I've been out of the military for almost 28 years now. And so with that, a little over 7 years ago, I was looking for opportunity to connect with other women veterans more in a professional setting. I wasn't interested in the traditional veteran organizations. And so January 2015, I got about 20 women veterans together at a local restaurant here in Sacramento, California, where I'm at. And that's where everything started, just as an opportunity to network with other women and learn more about them and how we can get them connected with resources. And I always like to share, I didn't realize the need when I first started, or even before I started, this need. And then I see there's such this need for women that have served to be able to continue to connect with each other and have that camaraderie with each other.
Okay. So to kind of, I guess, back up even further, what led you to join the military and
Yes, we'll go way back there. Yes, so I was in community college. I was going to be a school teacher. That was my path, and some things had changed just within family and just life, and wanted the opportunity to serve my country. And then I get asked, "Well, why the Navy?" That wasn't my first choice. It was just happened to be there. So I'm sure all of us are familiar. If you've joined the military, you go and their offices are next to each other. So you've got the Marine Corps, the Air Force, Army. They're all in usually one area, and the Marine Corps, no, they wanted you. They had that pull up bar in there, and it's like, okay, I'm probably not going to even past that. So it was, the Navy was the one that the door was open. Started talking to the recruiter, and of course, they want to sell you on all these things, and so yeah, so I signed up. My family, friends, nobody believed me that I joined the military, but there was a reason I joined that, because had I not joined the Navy, I wouldn't have met my husband. So that's the reason I was there. I didn't realize at the time, but that's the reason.
Fantastic. And what did you do during your years in the Navy?
So I was in supply, and during this time, women were still not allowed on aircraft carriers, or combat ships, but we were allowed on other ships. So my first ship was a rescue salvage ship out of Little Creek, Virginia, and our primary mission was to salvage things that crashed into the ocean. So we had divers on there. That's what they would do. And during my time there, I did a 6-month deployment to the Mediterranean. And being from California, I wanted the opportunity to come back to California. So I was able to do that. It took a little bit. I was able to transfer to 32nd Street in San Diego and went on board a destroyer tender. And not long after I got on the destroyer tender, we were headed out to a 6-month Westpac, which included a stop, which I will never forget. In 1993, I spent the summer off the coast of Somalia, as we were, many people forget, our time there in Somalia, and we were there supporting the efforts of what was happening there in Somalia. Of course, visit other ports, but that's kind of it in a condensed version.
Sure, sure. Now, what was it like from a wellness perspective with your own transition to the civilian life?
That's interesting, because when we look at wellness, and especially with your focus is on wellness, and people, I think a lot of times their definition of wellness is different. Like, what is wellness? So, and I would ask you, so I can make sure that I share. What do you think? What do you think as a person in wellness? What is wellness? I have my definition of wellness. And I think that's very important though, because we do talk a lot about what right about what is wellness and the physical, the mental piece. And so what would you with your, I mean, because you're very experienced in this specific space. Um, just
Sure.
love to hear what you have to say.
Well, for me, wellness is the whole person. It's all of the different aspects of what makes you you. And a lot of times we think of healthy eating, we think of exercise, and that's a big part of it, certainly. But there are also things like career fulfillment. There are things like relationships, building your education, fueling your mind as well as fueling your body, um, being in the right environment or creating that environment for health and for well-being, and being able to have that motivation and that joy, that personal empowerment, if you will. And really, all of those aspects are what make you you, what make you tick, and what makes your life even more fulfilling as you focus on these different areas. So in terms of how your own transition was, Melissa, really there, some aspects of wellness resonate more with others. I don't know if anything stands out to you in particular, as you transitioned out.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about the wellness piece, just for my own, I mean, we talk about my transition. It was a lot different than most when we look at transition. I mean, especially encompassing all those different areas. So when I got out of the Navy, I walked off the ship. The next month, I got married, and the next month, my husband deployed. So that was the beginning of our marriage as his deployment. Fortunately enough, I was able to I had a job. Actually, I got out of the military that Friday, and I started my job um, Monday on that Monday. So having that fulfilled, but there were so many things happening at that time. It's like, okay, here I am, I'm active duty. Now I'm not. Now I'm a military wife, and now my husband's deployed, and now I move back in with my parents while my husband's deployed and I'm working. So, I know a lot of times we talk about that balance and that piece of what that looks like. And I think a lot of that for me was a huge transition of time. Just all these things were all happening at one time, and again, just making sure that I was taking care of myself, but at least I had that fulfillment of having a job. So it's not, I wasn't unemployed at that time coming from the military, which is a good thing. Having that. And then also too looking at, okay, I have this GI Bill. What do I do with this GI Bill? And, a few years after that, I, ended up going to utilize my GI Bill to get my bachelor's degree. So having those different pieces, and I even look at that today too, as I work to empower women veterans, you look at all those pieces, like everything you talked about, right? We have the mind body spirit piece, right? And then we have the financial, and then we've got the education, and we've got the career and the family, right? We have all these things that encompass us. Do we all do them all well? I mean, sometimes I might, right? And sometimes I may do these better and I may not do those better. But kind of just find that center point of that. And I think that's so important for all of us, is what is that center point for all of us when it comes to that. And even today we look at the word self-care is used so much because we forget. I mean, I think too, as women, we forget that whole self care piece of taking care of ourselves, because it's kind of innate for us to take care of others before we take care of ourselves. With that, and again, going back to the same thing of what you're saying, yes, it's also too about our mind and our body, but it's also these other pieces can also include self care. I mean, it's great. Self care could be, going to the spa, or getting that exercise done, or reading that book, or maybe taking that college course, or getting that certificate that you wanted to get. Um, so I feel that that's so important too in what I do with helping women veterans on a daily basis.
Sure, absolutely. Now, from your perspective now and in the Women's Veterans Alliance, what are you seeing in terms of, if any particular aspects of wellness stand out, or what are I guess, what are the pain points or situations that women are facing as they are transitioning from military
Absolutely.
service?
I mean, if we took the whole COVID piece, right? Because that if we just took that piece out, the last 2 years, right, and we just looked at,
Mhm.
okay, what else is there, or what was there prior to COVID? Um, with that, because and then we can look, of course, and let's just look, okay, COVID in general. I mean, that's just as women, we have the same challenges as other women, whether it's the childcare piece or whether, do I go back to work or do I start my own business, or maybe now is this opportunity for me to, stay at home, is opportunity for me to go back to school. So and I feel too for a lot of women, this has been a great opportunity during COVID to maybe to push them to make those changes, right? Because so many times we're on that ledge, or we're on that we have that opportunity that's there, but we're saying I'm not going to do it until, right? It's like I'm not going to go on vacation until I lose 20 pounds. Or I'm not going to go and start my business till I have, $5,000 in the bank. Or I'm not. So I feel with COVID, a lot of this helped push a lot of people to do these things that they probably didn't think that they would, or they didn't have time, or they just felt that they weren't ready to do. And seeing women veterans in that, you look at year over year as far as women entrepreneurship, and even among women veterans, more women are starting their businesses, because some of them may like that flexibility, or maybe they didn't realize, okay, this is really what I need for me and my family. And I think that's so important too, as we, you know, hopefully people are in the position to build their life, there are things that they do around their family and other things. With that, we see the increase of homelessness. I mean, that's been something that was trending even before COVID. Our women veteran population is increasing in general, but also too, we're seeing that increase of homelessness. And when we talk about homelessness, with veterans, and even just what qualifies as homelessness, a lot of times, okay, if someone's homeless, they're pushing the shopping cart, right? Or they're living somewhere under a bridge, but homelessness could also be just couch surfing, because you don't have a home, right? So you could be living on someone's couch, or just kind of bouncing back and forth, or, and unfortunately, sometimes, hear of women living in their cars, which is just, to me, gets to be so sad, because a lot of times they have children. So how do we help our women veterans? Sometimes they don't have that great transition. A lot of times it's like, okay, you get out of the military Friday, and guess what? 2 weeks later, you're not getting a paycheck because you don't have a job. So, then all these things start to happen. So how can we help her be stronger before she even gets out? I mean, there's so many lost opportunities when it comes to, some of our population of women in that transition piece, and how can we help them, in a sense, be successful with that? And and thank goodness, I had the Montgomery GI Bill, but then you had the post 9/11 GI Bill, which is a fantastic GI Bill to use, because you go back to school and they're also going to give you money for housing. We didn't have that in our Montgomery GI Bill. So again, just looking at all these options and opportunities, for our women that are out there, and that's why I feel what we do is so good, because we can talk to them. We can talk to them where they're at. It's like, okay, this is what I have going. I'm not going to talk to you about buying a home, because that may not be in what you're looking to do right now. You might just, okay, but maybe that's down the road, and then we have that conversation. So I feel it's so important, and that's why I feel that TAP. We always talk about TAP, how it can be much better, because why isn't it as good as it can be? Of course, it's the person who's transitioning out, but also you're giving them information that's not applicable to them today. If you talk to me, I mean, buying a house is a great example. I wasn't looking to do that when I was getting out. I mean, there's other things I was worried about or focused on. And so let's try to focus on those things, and then help them when they're ready for those other things at that time.
Okay, so there's just kind of a lot of different aspects, and just a lot of uncertainty, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people have everything locked on, and some don't, or some may have it locked on this way, but other things happen, right? And it's like, okay, well, what do I do in a situation? Where do I go? Who do I ask? Who
Mhm.
can I ask for help? And a lot of times I feel what I do, is speaking with civilian, going out, just like whether it's the Rotary or other groups that make, non-militaries, letting people know if veterans ask for help, depending on what kind of help they're asking, it's not, you don't just have to refer them to the VA hospital, because the VA hospital may not be equipped to help them find a job. There's other resources out there that can help them, and if veterans do go to the VA, whether it's a man or woman, sometimes if they're not able to help, then they might give up, right? They might go, okay, they're not there to help me. Or I heard that somebody said, oh, the VA is not good to help me with these things. And again, why what we're doing here at Women Veterans Alliance is so important for our women.
Mm. Now, do you feel over, from the time when you first transitioned out, to the present, has there been a lot of a growth in, access to these resources for women as they transition out?
There has been a growth. I mean, if you look, even when I first started this 7 years ago, there's more the resource. There have been increase in resources, but stronger resources. You look at the VA, they have the Center for Women Veterans. So there are, things when it comes to the VA piece. There are other nonprofits out there that are supporting women. So a lot of it's just that awareness piece and having those resources, but also too having those resources that can be financially stable and have those funds to be able to help our women that need that. And I want to say help because it's different kinds of help, right? It's maybe getting education, or maybe it's getting their disability benefits, or maybe it's they want to start the business, or maybe they need help with their resume, or maybe they just need that connection with healthcare. Or bottom line, maybe they just want to connect with another woman veteran. They just want to be able to talk shop with other women who've served because there's that that disconnect piece coming out into the civilian world.
Okay, and that was kind of the birth of the Women's Veterans Alliance. You mentioned just kind of connecting. Was there any particular topics that come up, common topics, or was it just mainly that relationship building or that camaraderie?
Yeah, that camaraderie. I mean, bottom line, that's what it's a relationship. It's, and I had one of the ladies, it's probably like in our third meeting that we had, and she came in and she said, what, I thought I was the only woman veteran in Sacramento. I mean, she wasn't being sarcastic. She truly felt that. So when others feel that way, you feel like, okay, I'm the only one out here, but you never know who else might be here that, gets you, understands you, because that's the thing too. And women have shared with me too. It's like when I come here, to our meetings, or I can take my mask off. I can be who I am and be myself. And that is so important. I think that also ties into that wellness piece to be able to not have to have that there where you can feel comfortable talking to others. And when and too with the branches, it doesn't matter which branch you are. I mean, we all come in together and talk, and we talk about the other branches. It's just that piece that we have with each other. And again, that's also so important too, as well.
So sure, just having that being like I love what you said about, being able to take the mask off, being able to be true, true to yourself and being able to identify with others in similar situations. That's super important.
Most definitely, and when we have our, we'll have like a dinner, and we're there in the room, and everybody goes around and introduces themselves. Been very interesting these last 7 years of just sometimes some of the women, they'll say, I was just here and I'm just gonna share my name and my branch, what I did.
Mhm.
Some say that, but then all of a sudden they start talking, and then their things are starting to come up. Then they're just starting to realize, oh my, I didn't even know this was been suppressed, or
Mhm.
I've kept this in for so long. I've never been able to share this with anybody, and it could be good or bad. I mean, some of the stuff is like you're just like laughing so hard, and then next thing you're crying, But these are things that women have kept because they can't really share with anybody because nobody else would understand what they
Mhm.
have to share. And that's and that's part of whether it's you're looking at healing or however that looks for that person, and that's what's so needed. Because if you look at too, just I mean, you look at men and women. Just look at men coming back from World War II. People's like they say, well, I didn't even know my grandfather served because he never talked about it. So they have all these things. So here we give women opportunity to be able to talk about it, whether it's the
Mhm.
good or the bad, or right there in between.
Sure. Now, how do you feel? You mentioned, being able to discuss different things. I mean, how do you feel that helps as women go forward into civilian life, whether it be to careers or to family or to other aspects of life?
I mean, for some of it's just a release, right? It gives you the ability to move on, to take that next step. I had a woman has a few years ago. We were talking about her starting a business, and we were just talking and talking about these different things, and all of a sudden she starts crying, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" She's like, "It's going back to that suppress." She's like, "There was something that happened, and I just really never. It's been so far back, and then just talking about things, this came up, and she says, you know what? I'm not really ready right now to start a business until I work through this."
Mm.
So right, so it's like maybe she did start a bit, just think if she had this, she started the business, maybe there wasn't um it may not have worked out. But with her,
Sure.
she was able to get through stuff and then kind of start the business, but she wasn't just like, okay, I'm gonna start this tomorrow. So just things that she worked through. And that's okay. And we talk about whether, we talk about PTS, we talk about MST. People can continue to work and to live, and to be able to work through these things. And I think that's so important too, that yes, maybe that you take things a little bit slower, but doesn't prevent you maybe from having a job or having a business or having, just understanding that, and all these resources out there that can help you work through that, whether it's with the VA or there's, a lot of other organizations too that can provide help with that too.
I love that, and just that whole connection, it seems like it can help you in communicating that, but you're also being able to kind of, I guess, reorganize your priorities, where you should focus your efforts. And in that example, she needed to kind of work things out from a mental and a relationship perspective before she could really move on to a career or to other aspects of her life.
Absolutely. And there's some that can do it maybe concurrently, but just got to, realize, okay, this is, and to take that time off, it's like, okay, well, I need to, if you are getting that new job, it's like, okay, well, I need to take off, this day, this time, and because I got to take care of my health. And of course, now it's a lot different now with people telecommuting or remote work or working from home, to have that flexibility too, to go to those appointments, and to take care of yourself. And then, and also too, we're just speaking of, since it's coming to mind, of taking care of ourselves. Another thing is, women veterans, is we need to make sure we're getting our mammograms. Um, a lot of women don't realize, we're more at risk than our civilian counterparts of getting breast cancer, because of
Mm.
all the different things we've been exposed to. And that's another thing, is making sure that you're getting, that yearly exam.
Okay, absolutely. Now, from reflecting on your own transition, you mentioned, there was a lot of a lot going on at the time. How did you navigate through that uncertainty, or all these different components kind of coming together as you exited the military?
Well, let's see. Well, for me, part of me is a risk taker. So some of that is just like, okay, it's, hey, I'm going to take it, and what happens. But a lot of it too, I was young, and that also plays into it. As we look, okay, if is it the 22-year-old me, or is it the 40-something-year-old me? Okay, that's right, a little bit different than, just kind of, there's some being somewhat naive in some ways, being somewhat, no, you don't have that experience, so you're just going into the situation where you don't have that experience, and not having someone you can ask about this. So you're just out there, doing your thing, in a sense. For me, that's a lot of it, what it was. And for me, I had a timeline, so I knew, okay, my husband's going to be back in 6 months, and then once he gets back, what does that look like for us? Where's he going to be stationed? So having that transition too, which helped. It helped having that timeline, and for me, that helps. Like, okay, this is 6 months, and then what happens after that? And so, kind of going the day to day, but also planning for when that return would happen, and what that looks like for our, our marriage and our relationship going forward.
Mm, okay. And now, what was, for you, as you did that, just kind of planning out the 6 months and beyond, were there some key aspects that really, helped you through it the most?
Well, for me, since I moved back home, so I had my family, and then I had my friends that I knew through high school.
Okay.
So that helped, having that, like, in a sense, a support system, which really helped me. I feel that this it would have been a lot different had, I moved and was by myself in, in some other location or city, and then building, starting to build those relationships with other, military spouses. Um, I feel that those 6 months would have been a lot different than they were.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, as women transition out, what are there some tips, some takeaways that, so they can kind of be, I don't know, maybe more proactive, or being able to have different things to think about as they transition out.
Absolutely. So one thing is, women should all get on LinkedIn. You should build your profile. You should start networking, because networking is the key piece. So whether you're networking to find a job or to business, or to have that, start building those connections, that community. And you can do that before you even get out. And I highly recommend start building that now, so you start to have that network, there. And then, once then looking at, okay, when I get out, I know I'm going to move here. Okay, so when you move, does that mean you're going to look for jobs? Okay, we'll start connecting with those employers. Um, so that way you've got that there. Maybe I'm going to go back to school. Okay, well, then what school is that? Most campuses now have their own veteran resource center. So connecting with those college campuses, start making those connections, because the stuff's not going to be done for you. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. It's you've got to get out there, and then getting your having your VA benefits done, starting your disability claim, starting those things. All these things can be done prior to you transitioning out. So um, when you're on that terminal leave, these should be things you're doing, of course, with packing and all the other things that you have to do, but for yourself and for your family, what that looks like for you. And those are just some key things that we should have done.
Okay, fantastic. Now what are some, you mentioned, the VA, of course, there's the Women's Veteran Alliance. Are there other, resources that are particularly helpful for women as they transition out?
Absolutely. Well, just resources in general when it comes to our veterans. So whether it's a great resource if you're looking for a federal job, USA Jobs. It's a great option to get your resume up there because you get a preference for being a veteran. So that's another resource when I look at the um, federal jobs, but also too as we look at other resources out there. There's resources out there to help you with your resume, whether it's America's Job Center, but there's also others that can help with that. There's the Veteran Business Outreach Center if you're looking to start a business that are specific for veterans. There's also the Women's Business Center, which can also help on the business aspect. And like I said, with education is going back to look at the veteran centers that are at that school to be able to assist you. And then, also too, in your local community, looking at whether it's your different veteran organizations that are in your city or your county that you can connect with. So they're out there. Sometimes it's just they may not be as visible, but a great resource that we can be is help get you connected to those resources in your local community. And also too, on our website, we have a whole allies directory. And on that allies directory, these are organizations where they're predominantly focused for women veterans. So they're all throughout the U.S. and these different women veteran groups, and people can connect with them. Whether some of the groups it may just be a Facebook group, it may just be a nonprofit, but there's different resources that can help get women connected in their local communities.
Okay. Now, with those connections, is it primarily job related, or are there other topics that are relevant there?
All different. So as far as the different nonprofits, they all have different ways they do things, but their primary goal is to empower women and connect women. So another great resource is if you're in Southern California, Foundation for Women Warriors. One of their programs is they help with childcare costs, so that way that's not preventing a woman from going to school or her job, and that's their primary focus is that. You've got other groups, Women Veterans of San Antonio, and they do a lot of community events together. So it just depends upon, where the person's at in the U.S. as far as connecting with some of those local groups and what they're doing. And you can always start your own too. Just that was my intent 7 years ago. Was just a once a month group, not a national organization like we are today.
Okay. Now, how did Women's Veterans Alliance become, you mentioned, it started out just kind of a small group getting together. What was kind of your impetus for really turning it into a blossoming national or maybe even international organization that it is today?
It was the need. It was just as each month it would grow, people would find it. So then it was, whether you're starting a for-profit or nonprofit business, it's a business model. So it's like, okay, now I got to get a website. Now I have, now we got to do this, and now we got to, okay, let's find an official name. So it's all these things that just kept happening. Okay, now we have to get now we have the Facebook page. Now let's get a Facebook group, and then just things started happening, and then all of a sudden, other non-women veterans were interested in what we were doing on how they can help support what we're
Mm.
doing. So it just and then by the time it got to that point, I mean, I was already in the deep end swimming. I mean, I'm just, I'm there.
Right.
It wasn't testing the waters or anything, or just fully in there, um, doing what we're doing, and it just continued to evolve. Just like this last year, we started the launch of the new Women Veterans magazine, which we have our California edition. Excuse me, and working on other states. So just looking at areas of where there's a gap when it comes
Mm.
to, okay, there's not this, so let's help fill this. How can we fill this gap to make it easier for our women veterans at transition? And then I started Women Veterans Giving a few years ago, which is our nonprofit partner. again, when it comes to that gap, when it comes to funding for our women that are looking to start or expand their business. And, and to date, we've given our $15,000, to women veterans to help them expand their business. Again, filling that gap when it comes to access to capital and money. And we want to help her with that. And I think that even falls back into the wellness piece, right? Because then now, if we can alleviate some of that stress that she might have, of, okay, where am I going to find money? Maybe I don't qualify for a loan. Maybe there's no grants out there, but I, really love this and I love what I'm doing, and so let's help infuse some cash into her business.
I love that. Just providing them with resources, regardless of the need or regardless of it really, I guess, more targeting needs and
Hmm.
identifying where we can help women veterans the most. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, Melissa, how can people get in contact with you?
Absolutely. And well, they can Google Women Veterans, well, Women Veterans Alliance. I guarantee will come up on the first page, and that's the best way to find us. Go to our website. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a Wednesday webinar series, and we record those webinars and we put them up on YouTube. So it's a great way to watch the different webinars and the great presentations that we have by our different women veterans on there as well. And again, feel free to connect with us on social media. You can get on our email list on our website and stay up to date with the different updates that we do put out there.
Excellent. That's fantastic. We will include all those things in the show notes. And as we wrap up, any last words of wisdom or really key things that women veterans need to keep in mind as they transition out and really make the most of their life, their skills, their passions.
Absolutely. Another thing is to find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a formal mentorship. It can be formal, but find someone else, or maybe one or two people that you can connect with that can help you. But one of the things, one of my favorite quotes is, "You miss 100% of the shots you never take." So don't let
I love
anything
it.
hold you back, because you know what? If you don't take the shot, guess what? You're missing it.
Mm, okay, fantastic. Melissa, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate it.